record yesterday's and put it up, and then we're going to continue today's. All right. So it's hot in this room. Okay. So we are going to, I'm going to pull up my, one of my books, of our ebooks. Okay. Oh, I have both of them up. Okay. So this is, just ignore the cup, this bottom part. I don't know what happened there. But anyway, so this is one of our ebooks. And I believe I have to go look. I feel like this one's like, I don't know. It looks long. So I'm going to guess it's at least 6 by 9. That's my guess. But I'll have to check with the VA. What I want to talk about today is I want to get into the formatting. So we're going to go look at your faux book, the faux book that we created together, sort of indirectly. So we created a fake book. There's a lot of stuff happening. All right, so we already talked about the cover, and we talked about the inside cover. And if you're going to do an ebook, you may not have to do anything with the inside cover. There's a lot of ebooks that don't have anything significant here other than some copyright words. And if you don't have a true copyright, then whatever you put there is technically not legitimate. But if you do have an official copyright where you've gone with an attorney, then that will be legitimate. Then the next thing, we talked about the table of contents, but I'm actually going to record a separate session on it. So I'll cover the table of contents in more detail. And then we began the journey. This is going to be like a hodgepodge of many different books. So if we were doing a chapter book, we talked about, putting your image, and then typically with a chapter books are the books, the kids you may have for kids to read from elementary to middle school, pretty much. And there's a specific format or look to it. They typically have an image up here, and then of course the chapter start, and then the text, and it goes on front to back, front to back, front to back with page numbers at the bottom. And I mentioned that you could do this in Google Docs. If you're going to do a recipe book, like we talked about, bringing your image in and then, putting your recipe on the next page. And the great thing about Canva is you can see the layout. Or if we were to upload this to Lulu, we could see what the layout would look like. You would see the picture on this side and the recipe on this side. If you want the picture to be half size, you can do picture being half size, and you could start the recipe at the bottom half if you decide you want to do that. So there's many different ways in which you could, let me grab this. There's many different ways in which you could achieve what you want to do with your ebook. It's not a good picture. All right, so let me grab a different picture. So if you're going to do a half size, then what we're going to do over here is I'm going to grab elements. I'm going to grab who? You can have half. Sorry. I think we were doing pound cake. So let's say instead of this picture, you decide you want to do one of these pictures, and then we've seen cookbooks where it's half page, and then the bottom half is the recipe, or you can frame it to where it's inside your grid by just grabbing the sides and moving it around, putting your text down here, starting that recipe or putting the ingredients on this page, and then the cooking instructions on the next page. So you can decide how you want to do that. And again, that's still a basic textbook. Now, the next thing is, any type of additional formatting that we want to do. Sorry, just a second. Oh. If we're going to do a journal, we're going to look for lines. that's an image of lined paper. You can grab a template that is lined and use that as your starting point. Oh, a lot of elements. All right, so we want to choose, yeah, a lot of elements. Not gonna get what I want. All right, fine. Okay. I don't want this at all because that is truly a true element. I want a page. So oh, that's going to give me images. Hold on. All right, I don't know that. I know that I have a page already done. Hold on. Oh, I didn't grab it. Okay. There we go. Grouped. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to ungroup this. I'm going to tell you what I did because I was like, I don't have time for this. Okay. So this is all singular lines. All of it is singular lines. And I could go all day trying to figure out how to grab get the singular lines, clicking on one at a time. Or if you highlight the surface area, if I can get my mouse to move, highlight the area that you want, and all of the lines that are part of that will show up. And then once you highlight the area, you'll have a sort of an outline around it. You can go to the three dots, click on group, and group the entire thing so that way you can move it. If you're not wanting the entire piece, like let's say there was some other design at the bottom half, or there was a picture of some food or some dogs or whatever at the bottom half, and I just wanted the top, or I just wanted pieces of the top and not all of the top, then you can select them one at a time, and then you can go to the three dots and click on group. So you do have the ability to grab what you want to grab and fix it the way that you want to fix it. If you're doing a journal, you're pretty much, going to be probably doing lined paper. And you can decide that one side of your journal, I'm just going to go ahead and this and let me ungroup and click out here. You can decide that one side of your journal will house the design and the other side will just have all the lines. Okay. So if you want to do that, just going to grab a couple of these. And I could copy them, Control C, or I could group just those. And then I can click on duplicate and bring those up to the top so that way my lines go up. I think that's where I'm supposed to be. All right, I have an extra line in there. Come on, grab it. Yeah. All right, well, hold on. I'll get rid of this one. Move this one down. Slowly, maybe. Then move this one down. Okay. So then when we look at my book, I have one side of my journal could have like whatever the heading and the words are, and the other side could just be all the lines. You can decide how you want that to lay out. If I wanted to put a shadow or an effect on it, let's say that I wanted at the top, we'll keep these fancy words. I'll take this off and take this off. And let's say that you wanted to put an element, flowers or a cross. So you could go after elements. So this is cute. But I'm going to try to find something basic. It's not pro. It's just all catch up here. Come on. There was one that okay. All right, so I'm just going to choose this one. And I could put this up in the corner. Or if you decide that you want to do flowers of some type, or birds, or butterflies, or whatever you want. Maybe you want to have some type of border on the edge, something that's right in the corner. That's just a little bit of a touch, nothing fancy, or you can make it, much bigger and on the outside a little bit. Okay, and then have whatever words you want to have there, or choose any of the other elements. I'm just grabbing something basic, but in any case, you could also do the black and white version, which would probably be really pretty right there. So, you could do whatever you want to. You can superimpose a cross with it and, take two elements and make it into one. Oops, that was not what I wanted. I can find what I'm looking for. Oh, that's pretty. Okay, so here's one with the cross with the flowers already. So you could, take something like that. That one's pretty with the three crosses. Make that bigger across the top. That could be part of your border at the top. You can decide how you want to do that. All right, so I'm not, that one's pretty too. So anyway, I was trying to do a flower and a cross combination, but I guess I just need to do a basic one. And yes, it is hunting and pecking. I don't know. So let me take this one. Let me blow this up. All I did was enlarge it at the bottom so I can see better. I don't know where my cross is, so I gotta grab my cross and come up. Make this a little bit smaller. And I can left click on it and send it back. You know, not making it too fancy there, but anyway. My flower may be way too big, but that's okay. You could decide how you want to do it. But I think you get the idea. Make your own combination so that way, you have something up there. Now, the other thing that I wanted to point out is with your journal, like when you're creating it, if you want to have an effect, like you have a border around it of some type at the top or at the bottom, anything like this, like these are all separate blocks. This is one block that's one font. Here's another block that is a completely different font. Here's another block that's another font. So all of them are all different. And, the spacing, I'm pointed this out to my VA, so she's fixing the spacing, but this is like the original version. So the spacing is inconsistent, and that's one of the things you want to pay attention to, is that when you scan through the book, that it makes sense as far as the spacing doesn't look weird, like, oh, okay, in this section it's a really wide spacing, whereas this one is really tight. So having all of that, correctly in there is going to be key. But if you want to have any of these elements, this border or big block text or trim around the book, any type. So here's one way to accomplish that. So I'm going to go to this one right here. And let's say we want to put an, I don't know, orange or blue or something, some kind of color in the back. But we don't want it to take up the whole thing. We just want it to be sort of semi-framed. So you could start with something like this. And then if I send this to the back and send it to the back, send it. Nope. Let me do this first. Okay, there's this one. I don't have the picture on here. Undo, undo. Can't move it. Okay, this is one way to accomplish it. Another way is if you have a specific picture up here, you can turn that element another direction. So let me copy this and paste and turn it. Okay. So if you want some type of trim or border around it, if you want it to be the whole thing, you can make it the whole thing. If you only want it to be on a piece of it, you can make it a piece of it. If you just want it to be the top, you can make it the top. So you can decide how you want that design to work, what you want it to look like. We take this all the way to the top and to the edges. Get rid of that, and you have some blue trim at the top or the bottom. So you can do different things with the elements to try and get some effects on there, or to make it a little more interesting. And again, if you have a specific thing that is pertaining to whatever your topic is. So if you're doing smoothies, like you can put little cups of smoothies at the bottom of each journal page if somebody is journaling that. If you're doing we've already talked about recipes. If you're doing a diet book, Again, you can put little elements down at the bottom of the page or at the top of the page that's pertaining to what you're doing, whatever it is that they happen to be working on. Now, the other thing is if I am keeping track of a specific thing, there's sheets that are already in Canva that will help you to keep track, meaning tracking sheets. But if you want to create your own tracking sheet, this is one way that you can do it. I think these are still grouped. Yeah, this is all still grouped. Okay. So since this is still grouped, I'm going to try to grab the side. Maybe. Nope. I can be able to grab the side. Okay. So let me ungroup this. Okay. Maybe I'm tracking something for the first couple of fields. What I'm doing is I'm grabbing the lines that I want to bring in. I want to keep the other lines, maybe not. You can decide, but you can grab the dot and bring it in. And so whatever your topic is, or whatever it is that they need to track. So let's say that they are tracking maybe, how many miles they walked today, or with the foods that they ate today. You can create a text box that's the spacing is just the same as whatever the lines are that you just created. So if I go over here, I indented the text first. Whoa, something weird just happened. Let me back out and come back in. I don't want to lose anything. All right. It should auto say. Okay. So I have my little text box. It just dropped in the middle. That's okay. Grab it. Gonna go up to the top. So if I am writing down something, noting something, keeping track of something, it's part of whatever this is that this book is going to be for my customer, my avatar. What you can do is you can figure out what the spacing is from a text return standpoint and fill in, what it is that they are supposed to be tracking. So I'm going to, I took my, oh, I hate when it does that. Just a second. It zoomed on me and I hate that. Reset. There we go. So the first thing is I'm going to want this left justified. That's the first thing. I don't want to go beyond where the current lineup is. So you saw that as I dragged it in, when I dragged it in, the little purple line showed up, so I knew where to stop. So I want to stay in line with that. I'm going to move the words up, maybe, and I'm going to try to line up with the text. Okay. So right now I got an invisible line that kind of lined up with this text. If I move it down, you'll see that there's like some lines that are happening there. So my goal is to get my letters onto that line. Okay, so let's say the first thing is, I don't know. No, I don't know. Maybe I'm tracking my steps for the day. I'm just making up stuff, guys. I'm not trying to, just so I can show you something. So I could be tracking maybe my steps for the day. I could be tracking what I ate for, I could put multiple lines for breakfast, lunch, dinner. Okay. As you can see, I'm not lined up with this at all. Not at all. Not even close. I changed my font size up to 18. I could change the font lettering to try and make it pick something that might be taller font so I can get maybe a little more leverage. Or, dun, dun, dun. So let's say I chose a different font, or I tried to find another font that was a little bit taller so I can get a little bit more leverage. So I'm trying to see if there's a tall font here. Just tall font. Yeah, these are skinny fonts. I don't want a skinny. Okay. So not really. So we stick with whatever font we've got, or we change it to whatever. This little arrow here, up and down, does the spacing so that way I can space the letters how wide they are. And then the next thing is I can space the line spacing. So I can stretch it out. And if I do that, I'm going to be pretty close to where these lines would line up to go across this thing. I'm just trying to click and get it to grab. There we go. All right, so if I grab this and move it over without moving it up and down. All right, I'm too high on the top, but I'm just right on the bottom. And I'm just right, pretty close to just right on the second line. So I can adjust. So I'm trying to line up my text. I can rest it. I can learn how to drive. And I can adjust my line spacing. So it's going to be pretty close to actually being on the line. Okay. But you can use that line spacing thing if you're creating some type of tracking sheet. You can bring your lines all the way over, put your semicolon here. And then that way you'll have some, more than likely probably have some instructions to your book on how to use this thing, or maybe it's going to be fairly intuitive. But anyway, you can have it so that all the lines come to the same place. And there we go. So you can use that line spacing to help you so that all your stuff lines up perfectly for writing. You'll notice that you also can anchor, change on the text box, if the text is floating at the bottom or it's floating at the top or it's even in the middle. You can choose that. That means that this text is towards the bottom of this purple grid as far as, or I can have the text, like all of the words line up with the top part of this, meaning the D is right up on the purple line and the A is up there too, and the Y, everything is all lined up at the top. And so I can choose that option, or I can have things be middle of the road. So there's enough space between the letters at the top of the grid, at the top of the purple box, and at the bottom of the purple box. So you can decide that by using that effect. If you wanted to put bullet points into your book, whatever it happens to be, and let's say that you're doing, there's something that you're doing with your recipes or something like that, you can put bullet points, you can do numbers. If you are going to put any type of color, you do have some level of transparency. So if I wanted to change this to be a little more transparent, this blue line, I can come up here and I can change the transparency. If I move the mouse so that it becomes much lighter. Now, I do want you to know that if you put a lot of transparencies into your book, when you get ready to upload it to KDP, or you upload it to Lulu or some of the other platforms, that transparency may become problematic. So my recommendation is to figure out the color that you want and stick with the color and not change the color into a transparency. It has a different effect from a printing standpoint, and it could definitely affect your book. So we had to learn. We had to waste 4 days taking all the transparencies out of our first book, which was very, very frustrating. It was a bad lesson learned. So let me just save you that headache. Just pick the color you want. If you wanted the light blue, just choose light blue. So you can come over here. You can click on this plus. You can move this dot so that you can get a lighter blue if that's ultimately what you wanted, instead of choosing a transparency. Okay, so I can just choose that instead of you choosing a transparency option. Okay, if you want your font to be a different color, you can choose, again, clicking on the A with the color underneath it, and that will allow you to come over here and choose a color that you want. The other thing is that if you want, like maybe this text is supposed to be bold, you can choose the B. If it's supposed to be italicized, you can choose that as well. But you can, again, bring your lines in from some other source. You can manipulate the lines. You can duplicate it. You can group them all together. You can figure out what you want to do from a text standpoint. So we had to learn. We had to waste 4 days taking all the transparencies out of our first book, which was very, very frustrating. It was a bad lesson learned. So let me just save you that headache. You can figure out what you want to do from a text standpoint. So If people need to write something down and they need to be led into what it is, I would encourage you to do something like this. If you want to choose a different font, choose a different font, but figure out what your spacing is from a writing standpoint. And that's one of the things that when we first got started, I had to figure that out. I think we found a sweet spot of roughly about 18 font, 18 to 20 font from a writing standpoint, giving people enough space. So if you choose something that is with that font size and you create your grid box, you can drag it into the lines and you'll see that the height is probably quite perfect. So 18 to 20 is what we found that I feel like is a sweet spot from a writing standpoint, especially when it comes to journals. So you want to make sure that they have enough space to be able to do that. Okay. Then the last thing, and then, we talked about the borders and stuff like that. Then the last thing, let me zoom out because I forget all the stuff that I was going to cover today. Okay, so we have the lines, we have the indented section. If we wanted to put color at the top or at the bottom, we figured that out. If you want to put a design and have, line paper on both sides. Okay, I think that's the major parts that I wanted to mention today. What questions, if it comes to me in the next 15 seconds, I'll tell you what the other thing was, but if not, I'll bring it up tomorrow. So what questions can I help answer from a standpoint of pulling your book together? This is all of that whole, you have to make the decisions on different things first before you get started on whatever type of book it is, coloring book, low content book, journaling book, novel, recipe book, recipe tracker, meal planner, all of that stuff. And you do have some amazing templates in here from a meal plan standpoint. You have budgeting templates in here. You have a meal tracker, you have a fitness tracker, like you have a bunch of trackers. So if there's a page that resonates with you that you want to incorporate into your book, you literally could grab that particular page and bring it into your book, what you're working on. So what questions can I answer? What questions do you have? Okay. All right. Uh-huh.
So when you transport this to one of the other platforms, I'm assuming they charge more if you have like color.
Yeah, the price does increase if you do have color in your design. So if you want to print it black and white, that's one thing. If you want to print it with color, it's going to cost you a little bit more as far as if you're doing true print on demand, like, like Lulu, just printing when people buy them. But I will tell you, it's sort of, I haven't found that like the price was not insane. It was reasonable. I was still able to make a profit off of the first book that we published, even with the increased price. So you can print a mock-up. You can do a mock-up with black and white, and then you can do it with color, and you can decide which one you like. I think we did do one where the cover was color, but the inside was black and white, or grayscale black and white. So you can mix it up a little bit. Yes, there is an increased cost if your pages do have color. Does that help?
Yeah.
So you got to figure out what your price point, what you think your price point is going to be, or what you want to offer or sell it for. You want to go see what the market will bear. I don't let other competitors' prices stop me, but I do want to know what others are charging in the market so that I'm not way off in left field by myself. If they're all charging, I don't know, $14.99 and you're charging $44.99, like, okay, you got to be prepared for what is your justification for the $44.99? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're going to have to show a lot of value, whether you show the value in the listing and the way that you take the pictures for the listing and the description for the listing and the pictures and the cover and all that other stuff in your marketing and your email marketing. Maybe you do a web page. You have to be able to justify that drastic increase in price. And your niche audience, I mean, if you have an audience, I would encourage you to beta test with them what we did, beta testing, and so that way you can get feedback and make adjustments before you roll it out.
Limited inventory available.
And that could help you with, do I do color or do I not? Do I just keep the cover color and the insides black and white? All of that can help with that.
Investing in your future self, Saratoga Homes can help. The time to upgrade your living is now with the new Saratoga Home.
Hopefully that helps. Is there anything else?
In a new Saratoga Home.
And that's all I had.
Okay. All right. So we're going to cover one more thing tomorrow. I'll make sure I record yesterday's session today, and that way Lyria, when she's uploaded, she can get that up there. And then by Tuesday, maybe we're going to upload to Lulu so we can see what we built. Right now, we have a random book that's got elements of a chapter book, a journal, and a recipe book. So it is all just random. So tomorrow we'll do something with some more with the tracker, and then we're gonna go ahead and upload on Tuesday.
All right.
Okay. All right. I hope you all have a wonderful evening. I hope this was helpful.
Yeah.
And we will say goodbye for now.
Okay, Nicole, how's your hand?
My hand is good. I guess I need to post about that today. I'm at 95% functionality. So I'm good.
Good. Thank you. Okay.
Yes, thank God. Thank God. Thank God.
Thank God. Yes.
All right. Well, we'll talk later.
Bye.
Bye.